Hey guys, welcome back from the weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Today we are continuing on with checkers. I'm sorry that I can't be there today. John and Tristan should be there to help you guys out with the work from the weekend and also watching this video and moving on with this the work that we have to do here. So um, with no further ado, let's jump right in. We are continuing with our work to take the old checkerboard that had checkers in every single cell that we just hid or showed, and actually converting that into something with a data structure behind it. There's a lot of advantages to that. Obviously, we talked about something like playing the game chess, right? Where there'd be so many different types of pieces you'd be clicking forever. Um, and then also the ability to take this information, because this represents the entire, like the whole board. This represents everything that's going on, which is great, except maybe whose turn it is. But this certainly represents the whole board, and this could easily be saved. Could easily be saved. It could be transmitted over the internet very easily, so that two people could play the same game by passing that information back and forth, like between a server or something else. Um, so that's one of the advantages of data structures, and so that's what we're doing. So we've got the board so that it's rendering, and we can see that here. And we have this function render checkers, and that's iterating over this list of checkers, or if you want to get fancy, this array of checkers, right? Um, and then you've got, excuse me, as you iterate over them, we're finding the cell that's identified by this row number and that cell number, and we are adding the HTML that comes from render checker, which is simply this little chunk of HTML right here. Okay, and we're adding that into the cell. So it's really pretty straightforward. But the other nice thing is I can look at this really easily and tell where all my checkers are at any one time. So that's great. But let's kind of move into this a little bit more deeply, because one of the things that would be nice, and actually was going to turn out to be really helpful here. Well, actually, we were working on our select checker, right? And so we are going to improve the checker selection right now. So let's just show where we left off. Right now, if I click on a checker, it shows me which checker I selected. Or actually, it's not. This is giving me the DOM are. Let's see. It actually looks like it's not. Oh, that's right, because we had it. I think we had it broken in class the other day because we were rendering checkers and then we were adding the click function to the checker. Okay, so we added the click function on the checker, but that's where we left off in class. So remember, at the end of class, I think I did make this last bit of change here. At the end of class, we actually had we were adding the click handler to to the checkers and then rendering them. So of course, so the checkers didn't even exist, right? If we save this and rerun it, so it's trying to add the click handler and then it renders the checkers. And if I click on these things, of course, they don't exist because they do exist, but there's no click handler because they didn't exist when I was trying to to put a click handler on there. Let's go back to what we had. So I fixed that right after class and pointed that out to you guys right at the end of class. So you should render your checkers and then add the click handler. That makes a ton of sense. But with that said, if you think about it though, every time you render the checkers, and that's what we're going to end up having to do is render the checkers over and over. Every time you render the checkers, you're going to have to add the click handler back. Okay, so that might be better just to be the last step in rendering the checkers. Okay, to make sure that that's happening at the right time. So we'll just keep that under advisement, and maybe we'll move that in a little bit. But just remember it if we end up running into problems where after re-rendering the checkers, we can't click on them, then that's probably what the problem is. Okay, so keep that in mind. Today we're going to go ahead and kind of improve this select checker method a little bit, and make it so that, well, first off, right now it's not actually selecting anything because I click on the checker, and this isn't selecting the DOM element that I want. And the reason is because we moved the click handler from being on black cells to being on the checker itself. Okay, and the first thing it says is, hey, this, which is whatever I clicked on, whatever I'm calling this method on, and I'm calling the method on the checker, right? So I clicked on checker, okay, and it says, hey, get the first child of this checker. Okay, well, let's take a look at this checker. Okay, here's the checker. It doesn't have any children, right? Well, we can't just take what worked for the black cell and make it work for the white checker, because on the black cell we said, hey, black cell, give me your first child, which I can hear the jokes you guys are making right now. Like, oh, you're your firstborn child. So anyway, black cell, give me your first child, and then I'm going to, select that. Okay, well, in this case, the checker is the child, and so we can fix the selection process simply by saying, we don't want your child, we just want you, because now we are clicking directly on you, we're not clicking on your parent. So let's refresh that and see if we get something. If I click on this checker, oops, let me go to the console, click on the checker and see now I'm getting that DOM element, okay? Where before I wasn't. I click on the checker, expand it, and I'm highlighting the right thing up there. So okay, so that's a definite improvement and fixed a bug that we had in our code. So that's great, but here's the thing, and this is where it gets a little confusing, but it's not too much, not too bad. Okay, I'm going to inspect this element here. What I'm selecting, what I'm getting when I click on this element, I'm getting this actual DOM element. I'm getting the DOM element back. Okay, well, that makes sense. You click on the DOM element, you get a handle to the DOM element. Okay, but I don't really want that DOM element. Okay, because this DOM element, if you look at it, doesn't have any row number on it. Doesn't have any. I can't move it. I can't change it. What I actually want is I want the checker in this array of checkers in my data structure. I want the checker in the data structure that represents this DOM element. So I click on the DOM element and I want to be able to select an item from this array. Okay, that way I can change where the checker is and then re-render the checkers. Okay, that makes sense. It would be possible, for me to actually select that element and then to click on another element and then to physically move that DOM element, but then I lose my whole data structure. At that point, then everything's still back here on the board, and I can't transmit that information. I can't, I don't have a data structure anymore. So what I really want to select, if I click on the checker that's in cell 3.2, right? I want to select this object right here. I want to select the checker object that represents this DOM element. Okay? But there's no, I don't know, how to get that. Now, I could do it in a really complicated way. I could say, okay, well, give me the parent DOM element of the checker that I selected, and then grab its ID, and then take its ID apart, split the ID by hyphens, so I could get the number 3 and the number 2 out, and then I could go in and I could say, okay, find me something that's in row 3, cell 2. Okay, that would be a lot of work. Okay, it is possible though, right? Because the data's there. It's just on its parent. So sometimes you don't have a choice, right? Sometimes you're like, okay, I see the data. I can get the parent of the object that I selected, right? And then I can get its ID, attribute, and then I can parse its ID attribute to find the information that I need. Okay, you can see how that's possible because 3, 2 are there, and then I can search this array for something that's in row 3, cell 2, and I'll find what I want, and then I'll be able to change that and re-render the checkers. Okay, so that's a lot of work, and I'm inclined not to do a lot of work. Okay, so because what I really want, okay, and this, let me just go to the console and we'll simulate what we're really looking for. Okay, this is which element is this in the array? It should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Or sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is element number 8, which makes sense. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So I want, if I said checkers 8 dot cell and I want that to be the cell. We'll just move him over one cell. Cell gets 1. Okay? And then I say render checkers. Right? And let me put that and hit enter. Now what we're going to see is we should see a white checker in this cell. And we do. Okay? Now we didn't clear the board first. Okay? Which is why this checker is still there. But if I look at my whole list of, you see I go from 2.7 to 3.1 to 3.4, where before I was in 3.2. So there's no 3.2 anymore. It's just that element is still there because I didn't remove it. Okay. But that's what we want to be able to do. Okay. How can we accomplish that? Like I said, we could go elements. We could go back and parse this ID. Way too much work. Let's think about it from this point of view. At what point in time do I have both pieces of information in front of me? In other words, at what point in time do I actually have a handle to this DOM element that I'm writing into the HTML, and I also have a handle to this checker object? Okay. When do I have both of them? Because if at that point I have both of them, maybe I can do something to make it easier. And in that situation, obviously I have both of them when I'm rendering the checkers, right? At the time that I'm actually writing this to the HTML, I'm iterating over these checker objects, right? So I've got that object in my hand, okay? So wouldn't it be great then to just write the object at that point in time? Okay, that might make a ton of sense. That might really help me out. So maybe we'll go ahead and try that. And if we look through here, we're iterating through checker number 0 all the way to the last checker. Okay, so here, if I just had some like the index of that checker, then I'd be able to access things a little more easily. So I'm going to show you something you can do with when you're rendering the checker. Okay. In this case, I'm going to pass one more piece of information to my render checker method. So here I'm calling render checker, and normally I just pass it the cell. Now I'm going to also pass it one more thing. I'm going to pass it I. Okay. Now I is the index, right, into this array of that particular checker. And if you notice, when I spit everything out to the console, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8. All right, the order of the checker in the array did not change. I moved its cell, but it stayed in the same spot. Okay, so I can think of this as checker number 8. Okay, and so as I'm going through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I could just be passing that number to my render checker method. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so now I have I, and then one of the things I can do, first off, why don't I put an ID on here, right? Because these don't even have an ID on them right now. Okay, ID, and I'll call it checker I. Oh, not checker I like that, checker. We need to use string interpolation, right? So checker I, so that I'll get that. So let me just save that, and let's see if that works. Remember, baby steps, baby steps. You guys should, at this point, be saving and actually running this and making sure it works. Okay, and how can I make sure it works? If I inspect one of these elements, I should see that it has an ID of checker 8. Right, so let's inspect it. There it is, checker 8. Okay, so I just saved myself at least a little bit of work. Okay, because you know, I could get the ID and I can split it. Okay, by split that into 2 parts. You know, on the so I can separate checker and separate 8. I could just have given it an ID of 8, but that's not a very descriptive ID. Okay, so I probably don't want to do that. So let's see. So one thing, let's see if we can't maybe get that to output in here. Okay. So here we're selecting our checker. When we click on it, let's go to our console. Okay. All right, and it's showing our checker. But now I want to be able to show the ID of that checker that I'm selecting. Okay. So let's see. We want to read the ID value. I have to look that up. Now, guys, I'm always looking up things. Read attribute. All right. So let's see. Okay, ATTR. So let's take a look at that. Looks like I'm always like, I'll look things up and they always have these purple links because I've looked it up before. Well, guys, there's not really much point in remembering, like a ton of things these days because Google remembers them for you. So I can, it takes a string, the attribute name, and I think gives you the value of the attribute. Okay, so let's just try that out. So console in our select method. This is in our select checker method, right? Console.log. Okay, and the ID the ID of the checker you selected is dun dun dun. Remember string interpolation? Start with the $sign, 2 mustache brackets. Okay, and then let's get that value. It should be checker dot attribute ATTR and the string ID. Okay, so that's how I get it. Right? Maybe I'll pull this out as a separate variable. Let me do this. Let ID equal that. Okay. All right. So first I get the checker, and then from the checker I get the checker's ID. Okay, pretty straightforward. And then in here instead I'll just put ID. Okay, so it looks a little simpler. So I'm selecting this checker, and then let's see if we can get the right ID. All right, let me go over here. I'll run it. All right, let's click on, this one was number 8, right? So let's click on it. Hey, look at that. The ID of the checker you selected is checker 8. Pretty sweet, huh? Okay, so we're definitely making some progress there. Now, I'm going to the next step I'm going to show you guys would be how to split that ID apart into two parts. So again, the exact command for it can be found easily on Google, right? jQuery split string on a character, right? So you can do by space, by into whatever, but we're just going to pick some random character. The JavaScript split method, and I shouldn't even have looked that up in jQuery. It's really JavaScript. It's the split method. Okay, we'll just take the first result. Okay. All right. So how are you doing today? Here we're splitting based on space. We'll try it out. I love this. Try it yourself. We try it, and it gives me the array how comma, like it splits it all up. Okay, so let's let's try it with what we've got checker 8. Checker hyphen 8 is our string, and we want to split it based on hyphens, right? All right, so let's run that, and we'll click it. We get checker and 8. Look at that. It's two different things. Okay, so let's try that out. All right, so let well, I can't think of a better word right now, so let bacon equal or get ID dot split, and we're going to split it based on hyphens. Okay. And then let's put this after the other stuff that we had that was working. Okay. Put that by itself. And then let's console.log bacon. Bacon equals. All right. Remember, with consoles, I like to, instead of using regular string interpolation, it concatenates everything that you separate by a comma, but if this is an object, which I'm expecting it to be a list, it will print out the object as a list, which is what I want. Okay, so we'll save that, tab over here, and let's go back to our game board. Let's run this and click on a checker. All right, so the ID of the checker is checker 8. Bacon is an array of 2 elements, checker 8, okay? And I can expand it if I want to. The 0 element is checker, the 1 element is 8, okay? And it's always going to be that way, right? Because there's these will all be, if I inspect each one of these, they're going to be checker something. That's checker 0, right? Right here, checker hyphen 0. Expand down, checker hyphen 1, checker hyphen 2. I can go all the way down to row 8 and expand one of these, checker hyphen 21. Okay, so it's always going to be the second element, which is the 1 element, right, that I want to get. Okay, so instead of bacon, let me give this a better name, like oops. Interesting. Well, I appreciate that. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm not sure if you guys were able to hear that, but Shift F6 is supposed to rename that for me, but it doesn't want to at the moment. So string parts. Call it that. All right, there's parts of the string, and what we really want is string part 1, right? So let checker index get string parts 1. All right. console.log checker index equals checker index. All right, see what happens. Refresh our screen. Click on one of these guys. Oh, let's go look at our console. All right, so we ended up with checker index 9. So let's go click on the one that we know for sure. That's 8, checker index 8. That's what we're looking for, right? Okay, so we should be able to index into this array. So let's see if we can actually get the object now. So in that case, we can say instead of selected checker here being equal to some DOM element, right? Selected checker is actually going to be equal to checkers. Oops, I cannot type at the moment. Checkers, and then checker index, right? The index that we just got, which will in this case be checkers 8, right? And then let's log that guy out. Console.log and finished selecting checker. Let's spit out this checker, selected checker, and save it and jump over here and refresh and click on our famous number 8 now. Finish selecting checker. Now if I click on it, look, all right, I don't even need to click on it. There's the object. Row 3, cell 2, color white. Row 3, cell 2, color white. Pretty sweet, huh? All right. Now I can make changes to that if I wanted to, and then re-render the checkers. And that's what we'll do when we actually move checkers around. And we'll kind of make that more and more complex as we go along. But one really nice thing right now would be to give some sort of a visual indicator that we've selected this checker. Okay, so maybe we can add a CSS style that puts a border. So dot selected. So if something has the class of at least selected, we'll give it a border. And I tried lots of different borders when I was experimenting with this, and I think I settled on one pixel dashed yellow. So let's do that for now, and then save that, refresh this over here, and then I just want to test to see what it looks like. Okay, so let's inspect this element here and give it a class. Just double click in here and give it a class of selected, and let me click away. Okay, so it looks something like that. Not the best. Again, the shading kind of makes it look not exactly the way I would like it to. Another thing we could try would be adding the instead of adding that class to the checker, we could add it to the checker's parent. That might fix it because I like the light shading on these. They look real cool, but it makes the selecting border look funny. So let's add it to around the cell. That looks okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that looks all right. Cool. Okay, well, maybe we'll try that one. So in that case, we need to go into our checkers.js, and when we're done selecting, we need to add our border to this. So in this case, it would be our checker. Remember, our checker is referring to the DOM element, and the selected checker is actually referring to the data structure element. Okay, so checker, and I think it's just dot parent, but let's couple of jQuery parent selector. Look at it, it's already purple because I've used it before. So parent, yeah, there you go. Look at that. They're even adding CSS there. So yeah, let's try that. I think I can just do add class. So checker dot parent dot add class. I think that's the right word. We'll try it. Selected. All right, we'll save that. And let's go see if it works. Refresh. Click on this guy. Oh, snap. Look at that. One thing I don't really like is that it affects what's around it, you know? Like it pushes those cells apart a little bit. That's not my favorite thing. But yeah, maybe we might be able to fiddle with that a little bit to make it, not do that. But for now, I think it's okay, and we can fiddle with it more later. But I think that's a good stopping point for now. Is to get to the point where we have the ability to select a checker. And in fact, you know what? We're going to do one more thing. Okay, if I wanted to, when I click on another checker, like obviously I don't want to select a whole bunch of checkers all at once. That's just silly, right? Excuse me. And the checker that's being selected, if you go look on the console, here I've got, it is actually overriding which checker is selected, but I've still got these borders that are on there. So how do I solve that? Well, it's really easy to find these cells that have this border around them, because those cells will all be, and they really should only ever be one, but it'll have a class of selected. So I could do that as the first thing in here. I could say, hey, you know what? Grab me if something already has a class of selected. So dot selected. Then give it a border, remove class selected. So for everything that's already selected, as I'm going in to select a new checker, right, whatever was selected before, I want to remove the class selected from it. So let's do that. Just refresh this and see if that will work. So I click that. Look at that. There we go. That's pretty cool, huh? Again, I don't like it how it kind of moves the board around a little bit. But maybe we can fix that. And we can always play with different things that we can do here. So, but anyhow, yeah, that's so there you go. That is, I think, a good stopping point for today. So let's work through the ability to select the actual, checker element in the checkers array, and the ability to, to indicate which checker is currently selected on the board. I think that'd be a great stopping point. So, hey, you guys have fun. Again, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there with you today. If you have questions, John and Tristan are happy to help, and I will be happy to help when I get back to class on Thursday. Pray for us. We've got an important meeting today, which is the reason why I'm out. Yeah, and you guys have a great day. Thanks.